Alright guys, hope you're doing well. So this is Frank Tufano. I sort of come across Frank a few years ago. It's quite entertaining. He was sort of like going up against vegans, and he was a carnivore. I think he was doing raw carnivore at one point. But I do remember that he once did a hair analysis test, and I've always wanted to look at it. I briefly looked at it a couple of years ago, and it's a prime example really of how people don't truly understand how to read hair analysis tests. But interestingly, when I sort of come back to his channel to grab the hair analysis stuff, it seems to me this is 2 days ago, it seems to me that he's finally coming, he's finally understanding things in a much more better way, because he's found, copper toxicity, that he might have copper toxicity, which, as we know, most people have copper toxicity today in one form or another. But yeah, interestingly, I was doing a bit more research onto his channel, and come across what I find is a little bit worrying. That he ended up doing this is him, good looking guy, looks healthy, but for some reason he had a unhealthy attachment to his image, and when I see this in people, I always assume that there's a heavy metal issue, and it can definitely be related to copper toxicity. And he ended up having eye surgery, and it doesn't look like his eye surgery actually went very well. He didn't like the way that he looks, and I just watched this little video here, and it seems to me like the eye surgery's left him a little bit cross-eyed. So that's really unfortunate, and my personal opinion is that he's probably suffering from some severe heavy metal toxicity, probably some malnourishment from the carnivore diet. I do think the carnivore diet is better than a vegan if you want to sort of put them against each other. But yeah, a true omnivorous diet, taking into account mineral balancing and hair analysis, is the best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through his video on his hair analysis, and what I've actually done is I've actually put it through our application, which is hairanalysis.report, and on this website you can get highly detailed analysis of your hair mineral analysis reports. So if you are struggling, like I feel like Frank was when he was initially looking at this hair analysis, go and check out hairanalysis.report. You'll be able to get a really, really thorough reading of your hair test.
Have aren't necessarily what you should be doing, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So the very first mineral analysis I had, I was still completely carnivore. It was March of 2019, although I was about a year into having my severe health issues. And looking at this, all you could really say is, all right, Frank, you're super low on all the minerals. Like, they might be balanced, but you need to supplement them to some degree, basically across the board. What is impressive is the toxic elements are very low, because
So this is the first issue that we come across. What we can see if we go over to our hair analysis report, we can actually see that Frank was in a 4-low pattern, and anyone that's in a 4-low pattern is struggling quite a lot with their health. It's a severe burnout pattern, and it generally feels like you're sort of stuck outside in a storm without a shelter. That's probably the best way to describe 4-lows. People are usually quite fatigued, they kind of have insomnia, and overall they usually feel pretty bad when they're in a 4-low pattern, because this is sort of what the body goes into when it's sort of done everything else it can to keep itself above water, if that makes sense. But a key thing that Frank talked about there was he said that his heavy metals are very low. Now this is actually an incorrect way of looking at hair mineral analysis, because actually when metals are really low, and especially if you're in a 4-low pattern, this is a big indicator that the individual is suffering from some issues with their body releasing heavy metals. Basically, their detox pathways are shut down to a degree. So the way we look at this is through pore eliminators. So like I said, if the if the minerals and metals are super low, we actually see them as a poor eliminator. So at the moment, Frank did have 8 poor eliminators: iron, copper, chromium, boron, tin, cadmium. Lead was a very poor eliminator, cadmium was a very poor eliminator, and uranium was a very poor eliminator. So that's actually an indicator to us that he did have some heavy metals stuck underneath that weren't coming out, and we can see that from a 4-low pattern, because this is a big indicator that the detox pathways are usually shut down. And it gets interesting as we go along the video, because we start to see heavy metals come up. He thinks that he's exposed to them. He might have been exposed to them. It's difficult to really read this test properly. I think this video is more about highlighting how people don't really understand how to read them, because I don't actually truly know what he was doing. But yeah, the things get quite interesting. Let's carry on.
You know, grass-fed beef is free of pollutants. And the reason you would want to follow a high-quality organic carnivore diet temporarily is mainly to detox the negative stuff. You know, arsenic, aluminum, lead, mercury, all of those are typically very high in the average person, but not me. So
again, this is highly incorrect. If you're in a 4-low pattern, your detox pathways will not be functioning good at all. You'll be having liver congestion, adrenal fatigue. So it's very common to see extremely low heavy metals in these patterns.
I wasn't toxic with the bad elements, but I didn't have enough of the nutritional elements, and this has no indication of my liver damage whatsoever, which is why we also have to look at other markers like blood work.
He thinks that hair analysis doesn't do a good job at assessing liver issues. You can actually get quite a lot of information from a hair analysis around liver issues, and a 4 lows is a key one. If you are in 4 lows, then the chances of you having liver congestion is actually quite high. And on our hair analysis, if we type in let's have a look. I think we added the liver markers on here. Digestive markers. Here we are, liver stress markers. So 4 lows is one. I am going to add that on there actually. And he did have low zinc at that time. But yeah, anyone that's got some copper toxicity, he was showing 2 indicators of copper toxicity. 4 lows, they're definitely going to be struggling from some liver stress.
About a year later, in early 2020, was when I started experimenting with more supplements, trying to fix things, and you could see things like changed a lot.
So yeah, I mean, if you look at this test, it's shot up. Everything has shot up. You'll be able to see it much more clearly on our report, because you can actually see bar charts side by side, which is quite useful. So the light blue is the previous test, and then the dark blue is the most recent one. So everything has shot up massively. This to me looks like he's probably been overdoing it on some sort of magnesium supplementation. The sodium and potassium, this is usually a stress indicator, and it can be he could have been eating too many carbohydrates, but that is an extreme adrenal stress pattern. This is one of the issues with hair analysis. From what I can gather, he was just randomly supplementing things and not truly understanding the depth and complexity of the hair mineral analysis charts. I'm probably not going to go into it in this video, but you can get a supplement report from our application, which will tell you exactly what supplements you need based on your hair analysis test.
Magnesium, sodium, potassium went way, way, way high. And it's not bad that they're high, because they're electrolyte minerals, and they...
So yeah, I mean, it is quite bad. It's not bad if they're not too high, but these are extremely high. So he was in, as far as I can remember, an extreme adrenal stress pattern. And when the potassium is that high, you're always going to have some kidney stress as well. So we can't really take this test as completely accurate, the analysis that we've done, because we don't actually know whether he was doing the program. If he was doing the program well, he might have actually been dumping some toxic potassium, but I actually don't think that's the case. I think there was some big stress involved, which was causing the causing them to be so high. But maybe he was doing some dumping. Who knows? He might have actually been dumping some amigos, but you don't really see them go that extreme, from my experience. So it seems to me like he's actually under quite a lot of stress at that particular time, which you can see from here.
Get released fairly quickly. The thing is, they need to be balanced with other stuff. Yeah, you could see on the bottom, my magnesium went from 3.8 to 54.3, which tells me that, you shouldn't get this hair analysis when you're supplementing stuff, because the levels in the tissue for that period.
No, you should definitely get hair analysis if you're supplementing, but you should be supplementing the correct stuff. Again, that's a whole different conversation and topic, but our app will give you the correct supplementation in the right ratios. One of the issues that he probably suffered from here is that he was supplementing magnesium on its own, probably without calcium, which causes a magnesium shell.
Timer so high. The mercury did go a little higher, nothing significant, but it does say that something I was eating is not good. Now we're moving on.
So again, he assumed. Just go back a little bit. He assumed that his mercury was high and that that was an external factor. Again, if someone is following the program well, this could actually be a dump of mercury. If you remember the previous test that we looked at, where he was in 4 lows with all of the poor eliminators, we know for a fact, just from hundreds of thousands of hair analysis reports, that he will have some heavy metal toxicity inside. And like I say, I don't really know what detox methods he was doing, or whether he was eating more shellfish and stuff. I mean, one of the issues with the trace elements reports, and I don't think he was following them anyway, but they do recommend quite a lot of shellfish. It's not a very good report to look at, in all honesty. They ended up changing their graphs back in 1999, and it messed up all the ideal values. So it's really difficult to see the patterns. It's one of the reasons why I actually built the hair analysis .report application, and you'll see on here that the ideal values are actually added, so we can see things much more clearly. For example, a 4 low pattern, it's actually really difficult to see visually a 4 low pattern on the initial test, if you remember. Yeah, this one here, that's actually a 4 low pattern. It's very difficult to see because of the way that they changed the hair analysis charts. Alright, so we're going to move on to the last one.
I wasn't correcting my health issues, and here we see a pretty significant difference in the mineral profiles. So the sodium and potassium is still pretty high. The sodium isn't as crazy elevated as it was. The magnesium isn't as crazy high because I kind of stopped that, but all of the other minerals are much higher, which is good. I'm happy with. My selenium's going up, my manganese is going up, my molybdenum. What I really need to do here is I need more copper, I need more zinc, I need more calcium and magnesium. I guess.
So again, he's looking at this as replacement therapy. Looking at this hair test, he probably does need a little bit of copper at the moment in the diet, but you should never, most people have copper imbalances, and you should never look at a hair analysis test at face value, and if copper's low, you supplement copper. This test is actually probably the worst one. It's basically a step-up pattern. A step-up pattern is probably the most dangerous pattern. It can lead to sort of strokes and heart attacks in people. It's people who are sort of really hard drivers and stuff. It's quite a visual pattern. I mean, technically, if you stick to the, so if you look at Dr. Wilson's step-up pattern, so the calcium-magnesium ratio is less than about 4. we need to highlight the about because it's quite a visual pattern. His wasn't less than 4, it was a little bit higher, but in my opinion, I would probably look at this hair test as a step-up pattern. A step-up pattern actually, the individual has a big need for copper, so that would be something that we would have focused on. As you can see as well, his arsenic has increased, his aluminum has increased. Again, it's difficult to truly understand what was going off here because I don't know exactly what he was doing. But like I said, if he was following the mineral balancing program that we recommend, an increase in arsenic and an increase in aluminum would actually be a good sign. And actually, a step-up pattern would probably be more of a retracing pattern rather than an actual genuine step-up pattern. But again, it's difficult to fully understand without getting a solid history of what was going off.
I would say Paramount really needs to supplement the calcium and magnesium in high amounts to balance it with the sodium and potassium. That's probably why I don't have that much energy lately, and that's the first thing I really need to fix. The other minerals just have to kind of come up slightly in some regard to just be more balanced with each other.
So the really important thing is to ensure you've got the correct ratio of calcium and magnesium. Without that, you're gonna struggle really to get these balanced out nicely. He is in a fast oxidation pattern, so he would have actually been. He has got a low NAK ratio, so he would have actually been on sort of SPF formula, some inositol, some choline to bring down that fast oxidation rate, and he would have been on Limcamin or NAK up to help boost the sodium ratio that is much more in balance. So yeah, that's everything for this video. If you do want to get a hair analysis report, just go to www.hairanalysis.report. Thanks for watching, and we'll speak to you soon.